again. I left you rather in the air at the end of the last one, and I simply said to you, this is a situation that must be fixed, this whole business of how we handle our arrival here on the planet. The mechanics of fixing it are, of course, quite simple, but all we have to do is improve the way in which we deal with the whole process of birth. We need to be a lot more aware, treat our babies, our new arrivals, as sentient, thinking, feeling beings, and not some sort of insensate lump of matter, which is the way in which we tend to treat them at this time. The bright lights, the unfeeling, almost uncaring, and that's a harsh thing to say, I'm aware, uncaring way in which we handle them. It really is not good enough, and it needs to change. The real problem with that is the abuse that goes with it. Because in my philosophy, this matter of the abuse redounds through the rest of our lives. And we pay a heavy price for it in terms of the way that we think about ourselves and the way in which we react in our relationships. Picture the scene. For me, it is really very difficult to imagine anybody or anything undergoing the current birth process and then arriving at the other side of it with anything like a decent sense of self-esteem. This is very well known, that if anything is abused like that, the self-esteem goes out of the window. Now, if you start off your life with a low self-esteem, what chance does that give you later on? When you start to enter into all sorts of different relationships. Of course, in the case of the birth process, it's exacerbated because our parents don't have too high a sense of self-esteem either. After all, they went through exactly the same process. And there's one thing that babies do. It is said, for example, that there are 356 muscles in the face. It is well known that our dogs react to that muscular twitch and then tailor their behavior accordingly. Babies are no different. It has now been empirically demonstrated that if mum walks into the room, as she hoves into view, as she becomes visible to baby who's lying in its cot, the baby's behavior changes. It starts to put on an act. It waves its arms in the air, it gurgles, it smiles. It pushes out the pheromones, those wonderful smelly things that make babies smell just too edible for words. We adapt our behavior to the circumstances in which we find ourselves. And if your self-esteem is not in a good place, then your adaptation is not going to be that great either. We are seeing this today. Relationships are not in a good place. Our young people are not behaving particularly well. Young men are lost. They really don't have too much of an idea of how to behave. You see this as soon as there's any kind of social unrest. It is always the young men that are to the fore. And for me, this kind of negative behavior comes out of just one thing. We're not too sure of who we are. And I think that we could go a long way to improving that situation, to mitigating that situation, if we simply had a long, hard look at how we welcome our new babies, of how we allow them to come into the world. If we could gentle that, and by implication say to them, welcome, it really is nice to see you, I believe that we can truly change both their lives and therefore ours.